Get started on this exercise, you should have downloaded the Lesson 14 Book Project folder. Inside of it, they're giving you the basic Start InDesign file. Now, before I jump into this, let me demo what we're going to be creating. By the end of this, you're going to have an interactive PDF. InDesign allows you to have lots of interactive elements, including being able to type in text, being able to use little radio buttons, submit buttons, and checkboxes. Now, whenever you create these kinds of PDFs, first make sure you have Acrobat Pro or Acrobat Reader installed on your computer. This way you know it's going to work 100% perfect. Also, I want to demo what we're going to be doing because as we build this, it's not going to make sense until the very end when you actually test it. These form fields allow you to do things like type in text. You can hit Tab and move across each one of them. You can even do things like checkboxes or radio buttons. Notice for radio buttons, you can only choose one thing at a time. And for checkboxes, you can check them on and off. Or you can have a drop-down menu that has lots of different selections you can pick and choose from. Finally, you can have buttons that allow you to do a variety of different actions, such as sending emails, printing, clearing the forms, whatever. So we'll hit cancel to this. So this is what we're going to be building for this project. I'm not going to save what I'm working on. We can get started by double-clicking on the 14 Start InDesign page. Now the first thing we want to do as soon as you open this up is to optimize InDesign for interactive design. If you go up to the Window drop-down menu, go down to Workspace and choose Interactive, there it is, Interactive for PDF. If you need to, you can also go up to Window, down to your Workspace, and choose to reset Interactive for PDF, and this will put everything away. Now you'll notice in this Workspace layout, we've got a variety of different kinds of panels that are specifically used for interactive design. Some of these more often than others. So what we want to do is let's drag off the page transitions and the links. We're not going to be using those. We're not going to use the color, the gradient, the bookmarks, and also the media. Since we're not going to use these, I'm just going to hit the little X at the top and close them out. Now we do want to open up our Properties panel. So let's go to Window and down to Properties, which is at the bottom. There it is. And we want to open up our Object Styles. So one more time, Window, Styles, and Object Styles. I'm going to drag this one over here so I can use it later. Now, if you start to customize the layout of your workspace, you can also save this to be used later. If you go up to Window, down to Workspace, at the very bottom, we're going to choose to create a new workspace. The name of this new one is going to be called a PDF Forms Basic. And we'll say OK. Now, later on, if I ever need to use this workspace again, I can always go up to my Window workspace and I can choose PDF Forms Basic and it'll be ready for me to use. Now let's jump in and look at some of these basic form fields. I'm going to zoom in so I can see this first name field. And before we choose it, check out our Layers panel. Inside the Layers panel, note that you have the form elements on their own separate layer, and you've got everything else designed on Layer 1. We can lock down Layer 1 and keep these form elements by themselves. It's a good practice to always put your form elements on a separate layer so that you can quickly and easily move them around without actually tearing up your overall design. Notice as with your selection tool, the black arrow, if you hover over the box that's just below first name, it's got a special outline, a dotted outline. This indicates that it's a special form field. If you click on it to select it, it's going to work just like any other rectangle or shape that you've created. If you go over to the Buttons and Forms panel, this will give you all the information about this particular form. First, notice that there's different kinds of forms that we can do. In this case, because we want to type text into it, it's a text field. Every time you create a field or a form, it needs to have a name and it needs to have some sort of event. At the very bottom, pay close attention to how you want this to be described and displayed on your screen. The description of it helps people with visual impairments get an understanding for what it is. Whenever you hover over these on the PDF, the description will usually pop up in a little yellow tab. In this case, it's asking you or letting you know to type in your first name. The other form fields allow it to be printable, or it could be something that doesn't print. You can change the size and the font. You can even make it required or password protected. At the very bottom, you can set the default font, style, and size of it. Now, since this one is already created, let's create a new one under last name. With our black arrow selection tool, hold down the Option or Alt key, click and drag, and then let go to make a copy of it. We'll drag this over so that it lines up flush to this right-hand side. Notice that when we made a copy of it in the Buttons and Forms field, it automatically changed the name of it. This means it has to have a different name, and by default it forces it to have a different name by adding that one. Let's rename this Last Name, and then down on the description we'll do Last Name as well too, but keep both of those exactly the same. If you click on the address, you can see how both of those have different descriptions. Here it is for city. Let's make one from scratch by doing the email address. Once again, I'm going to zoom out so I can see everything. I'll deselect it. We're going to choose our rectangle tool, and let's draw a rectangle just underneath email address. And we're going to use our guides to line it up on this side and also make it the same height. Now you can see when I created this, it kind of automatically added an object style to it. That's okay. With it still selected, we can go to Object Styles, and let's choose the Text Field box. Now that's going to be just a simple a white box. With it selected, let's go to the Buttons and Forms field, and let's type in the information for it. First, the type of button it's going to be is a text field. The name of it is going to be your email address. We'll keep everything else exactly the same. And down at the bottom, let's set the font size to be Arial. And we'll do regular for it. If you don't have Arial selected, I know I've got it on here. Let's make it right. Here's Arial. We'll do Arial, regular. The size of it, you could do a default size, but some of the email addresses can get long. So we're going to set it to be auto. This way, when you type it in, it'll automatically resize to fit the box that it's inside of. With that done, that's all we have to do to set up a text field. I'm going to zoom out, and let's go over to this right side. In what way can they best help you? We want to have a choice between education, garden maintenance, or financial donation. Now in this case, this is an either or. You can only choose one of these. So whenever you do this choice, a radio button works best, because with the radio button, you can only choose one of these and it deselects the other. If you go over to your Buttons and Forms, radio buttons are one of the options to choose. Now, if you slide over off on the pasteboard, there are some radio buttons already designed for you. If you want to find these, they're actually pre-saved inside of the Buttons and Forms. You can open up the sample Buttons and Forms, and this will have some pre-made, pre-styled different kinds of buttons, forms, text fields, all the different stuff saved in their own library. So if you ever want to use these rather than the default, all you have to do is to drag them off, and they're already designed, ready to go for you. Now we don't have to do this. Let's use the ones that are already made for us here. We're going to select them. Let's drag them over to the left side of this. We need to scale them down. So with all three of them selected, let's go up to our options, choose the top left reference point, and let's set our scale value to be 40%. Make sure they are linked together, so when you click away, they scale down, but it goes back up to 100% up there. Now we can simply align it as best as you can right there. Now with all three of these still selected, let's open up the Buttons and Forms options. Since all of these need to be grouped together, they need to have the exact same name. So with all three selected, change the name to Form of Assistance. Also, they can have the same description. So let's put this as, in what way are you able to help? Question mark. Now, since all three of them will have the same, each one is going to have a different value for their choice. So let's deselect it by clicking away, then choose the first one. With the first one selected, we want the default appearance to not be turned on, so let's set it to normal off. We can change the value of it to be the value of what's beside it. So in this case, the button value is going to be Education. Let's do the same for Garden Maintenance. With it selected, you can see its default setting is normal off. Change the button value to be Garden Maintenance. Choose the third option. This will be a financial donation. Now that all three are selected, the only thing that's changing on them is their button value. With that done, let's close this out. Underneath here, we want them to be able to check on whether they want to or not want to receive a quarterly newsletter. In this case, over in the pasteboard, we've got a little checkbox, and again, it's one of those ones that's pre-made for us. Let's drag it over here, hold down Shift and Command, and let's click and drag to scale it down until it fits nicely to the left-hand side of that. Now with it still selected, open up your Buttons and Forms. Notice that this is a checkbox. The name of this checkbox with it still selected is Receive Newsletter. That looks good. Down at the very bottom, by default, we don't want it to be turned on, so let's choose Normal Off as the default appearance. Down at the description, we can describe this as, check here if you would like to receive our newsletter. We don't want it to be selected by default, so uncheck that, and we can keep the button value, if it is checked on, to be yes. With that done, we can zoom out. Whoops. This last box down here gives us the ability to choose between multiple things from a drop-down menu. This is known as a combo box. So to create a combo box, we're going to select the white box below. In the Buttons and Forms, let's choose Combo Box as the type. Now the name of this one is going to be the Newsletter Format. Notice now that it's got the red dotted outline. Down at the bottom, we can give a description of choose which way you like to receive your newsletter. There we go. Once again, let's also go down to our font. Let's choose Arial as our font, and we'll choose regular. Let's set the default size to be 10 point. Now when you list your items, we're going to list them right here. So for each one that we type in here, for the first one, let's do print publication, standard mail. We'll hit the plus sign, and that'll add it to our list of items. Let's add two more. Adobe PDF, email attachment. Click the plus sign to add it. Let's do link to online newsletter, email. And we'll add that to there too. So you can see we've got a standard mail and two different email type attachments. Now, if you don't have anything selected, by default, this box is going to remain blank and look empty. However, if you select one of these, like if you click on Print Publication, that'll be the one that's automatically selected in your font list. So far, we've created a variety of different form fields. Now, in order to navigate between each one of these, you could use your mouse and individually click on them, or if you're used to using your keyboard, you can hit the Tab key and move from one to the other. However, you need to tell it what order you're going to be tabbing it in. In order to do this, let's go up to Object, down to Interactive, and choose Set Tab Order. The tab order lets you know what's going to come first and next as you work through this design. Now if you scroll through here, you can see city, state, then the first name and address. All of this has been mixed up. Let's put the last name, so choose last name, and click Move Up until it's just below the first name. Then we can also do the same for our, let's see, what else is it? Email address. Let's move it up. It's after the zip code. And we can take our first name and last name, holding down Shift, get both of those. Let's move those up to here. Now it's following the same order that we would fill it out in our actual form. Once this is done, you can say OK. The final thing that we want to do to this is to create a Submit button. The Submit button's already designed for us right here, so with it selected, let's open up our Buttons and Forms, and this is going to be a regular button. Now with this one, we'll give it a name of Submit. We want to trigger an event whenever it's clicked on here. So on this one, on Tap or Release, once it's clicked on, we want to add an action to it. So what's going to happen when we click on it? Clicking on the plus sign, you can see there's a variety of default actions that are already baked into InDesign. No programming required. In our case, we want to be able to submit the form, so choose Submit Form. To submit the form, there's a variety of ways it can be done. Sometimes you can send it to a website, or in our case, to email it. We're going to type in email to : and let's do pat_smith@domain.com, just a default email address. Now whenever they click on it, it'll automatically open up their email client and send it to Pat Smith. Also, let's change the appearance whenever we roll over it. Rolling over simply means when my mouse goes on top of it, it changes its appearance. If you click on Roll Over, notice it makes a copy of that state. With it selected and Roll Over selected, let's go up to our fill color and change the tint to be 50%. So now you can see when it rolls over, it'll look like this, but by normal view, it'll look like this. And it'll swap back and forth depending on where our mouse is. With all of this done, we can back out and view our design. You can go up to your layers, and if you need to, you can lock down your form elements. Now let's test our PDF. Going to File, down to Export. From here, let's give it a name of our interactive design, PDF. Change your format to be an Adobe PDF. This time, choose Interactive and click Save. From here, there's a variety of things you can get it to set up to do. We're going to do all the pages. There's just one. We want to set the default view to fit the page so that we see everything. And down at the very bottom, make sure to embed a page thumbnail. This way we can see what it looks like once it's finished. From here, we'll hit Export, and this will open up our PDF. Now we can test it. Once again, you can zoom in to see it a little bit better, and you can type in your first name, hit Tab, last name, and if you did the tab order correctly, you can see it should jump to the correct thing. In this case, I didn't do the address. That should have come next, but that's okay. If I click on my radio buttons, you can see how each one works, or I can turn on and off my checkbox, and you can see our little combo box automatically chose print, but I can save that. When we click Submit, you can see how the rollover effect is working. When I click Submit, it's going to ask me, do I want to connect it to my local host? In this case, we're not going to really do this. We're just going to hit Cancel and back out. Once you're finished with this, you can close out your PDF and don't save it. Submit the InDesign file to the Canvas page as well as your interactive PDF.